So if there's an item that somebody would like to address their issues with the board, this would be the time to do so, if it's not an item that's already on the agenda. Good morning, Mr. Saive. How are you doing?
Good morning, commissioners, and it's been a good week. I'm here as an environmentalist.
And your name, sir?
My name is Harold Saive, and I'm here as an environmentalist, and I also have an application submitted to the EPAC vacancy, one of the two that are there. I'm here to talk about, we made our EPAC presentation thanks to Chris Bird invited us, and we made our EPAC presentation about the current geosol engineering that's going on over our heads at this very time. The Belfort group in Belgium commissioned aerospace engineers to look at this problem in anonymity because there's no whistleblower protection. And their conclusion at the end of this, that manipulation of the climate through modification of cirrus clouds is neither a hoax nor a conspiracy. But currently the best option in geoengineering considered by decision makers to counter global warming. Well, some people think that global warming is all CO2, but NASA finds that global warming and CO2 have been divorced. NASA finds that CO2 is only responsible for 45% of global warming in a 2009 publication that you haven't seen. And it's all there in AAAS magazine. And the media has ignored this item. So we need to, global warming is more complicated. They're actually looking at aerosols as the culprit. So what we're looking at is a huge political confusion about aerosols, global warming, CO2, and the real reason for stratospheric aerosol geoengineering that some people in this town are calling chemtrails. They have been going on since 1997, and they continue to go on. They were mentioned by name in House Resolution 2977. Dennis Kucinich called them chemtrails. He also called them an exotic weapon. They weren't a savior to global warming. They called it an exotic weapon. And at the time, he knew what he was talking about because he was head of the committee. So this is online at saive.com. The searchable edition is online at saive.com. The county really needs to get into this because barium and aluminum are part of the fallout of this, as documented in the recent documentary, What in the World Are They Spraying by G. Edward Griffin. We know that aluminum oxide in the soil, in the forest, will be an accelerant to forest fires. So we need to start checking things. We need to start doing this. This is no longer a speculation. This is no longer an issue of debate. This is many, including NASA aerospace engineers on the inside of this operation who volunteered because they have families too. So this is one of the issues that I brought to EPAC, and I'd very much like to continue the dialogue when the time permits as part of the committee at EPAC. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Saive.
Chemtrails. Have you noticed our skies look different? Have you forgotten how blue our skies used to be? Thousands all over the world are looking up and waking up, and they are rightly concerned. Why are planes leaving lines that can be seen on radar? Why are respiratory illnesses escalating? What is being sprayed? Why are we being sprayed? Who is doing this? Please educate yourselves via these links.
I live in North London. I've been in North London for 85 years, so I've seen a lot of things, and I'm noticing a lot of things that are happening in the world, you know, because I want to discuss one thing. My garden this year, I've had absolutely no crop. I've got no apples. I've had no black currants, no blackberries. I've had no herbs. My tomatoes are absolutely rotten this year, and just my whole crop, you know, absolutely devastated. And the ground in my garden is awful. It's gone very hard, and there's always dust everywhere, and you know, things like this. And I've noticed a lot that they seem to be, I don't know what the planes are doing in my area, but I've never seen the contrails stay in the sky like they have been. Because when I was younger, I remember watching planes go by, and it used to look like a little rocket to me going past with a little, you know, the little thing coming out the back, and then it would just disappear along with the plane. As I sat in my garden, this summer, we didn't really have much of a summer, and I watched the planes and making noise all over the place. It looked like the red arrows had been over and had stayed, you know, continuously flying over. But the only thing that what grew in my garden is I've got a very tiny greenhouse because I've got a very small garden. So anything that was in my greenhouse grew very well. So I did get a crop of tomatoes, and I got some onions. So that crop was very good, you know, being inside, and I got water from inside and watered those plants, and they seem to grow okay. So anything that's, you know, out in the open air that gets rainwater on it doesn't seem to be growing. So I'm just wondering, you know, what sort of effect is that having on, you know, us as people? What effect is it having on my body? And, you know, the people around me, I hear a lot of people coughing, and everybody's complaining about this. A lot of my friends, my older friends, everybody's complaining about this irritation they've got at the back of their throat constantly, and especially when I lie down to go to bed at night, it's like I can't swallow, and I've got this constant scratchy irritation in my throat, the back of my nose, and I never used to get this. It's gotten worse in the last year, because it's constantly, I've always got lines above my house, and I did do something. I spoke to my granddaughter about it, and she knew what I was talking about. She said it's something called Chemtrails. So, to be honest, I'm like 85 years old, don't know much about the internet, but I sat down with my grandchild, and she showed me lots of videos on YouTube, and I said to her, that's exactly what I see across over my garden. All the dust and the muck that comes down, you can see it. It's terrible. So I've been online, and I've been onto the internet, the web, and I've seen lots of things that look familiar and look the same that I've getting here. So I'm going to tell all my friends about this, all my older friends, because we all remember planes, and we know that's not what happens. They've fooled the minds of a lot of young people. A lot of young people have been fooled by this, and to be honest, a lot of older people as well have been fooled, not wanting to admit, you know, and too bloody scared to speak out. Well, I'm sick of not having a crop in my garden. That's why I'm speaking out today. And my granddaughter's done me proud. She knows all about this. Her friends at school know all about this as well. So just to say that things are happening and things are going on, and just because you're older doesn't mean you can't go onto the World Wide Web and find out information for yourself. I mean, I'm a senior citizen, I'm 85 years old, but I can get myself down to the library and book a little half-hour session online. It's quite fun, and I'm quite proud to be a silver surfer, and I'm finding out lots of new information. So I just want to send a message to all those people on YouTube. I saw some fantastic videos and lots of fantastic information. Keep going, people, and hopefully we're all coming together, and by next year all this would have stopped, hopefully, and I'll have a nice crop, and I can pick some lovely tomatoes and plums. That would make me happy. 86 years old next year. All right then. Bye-bye, love. Bye-bye.
Just going to make a little video for you. This is Cheshire and literally just got up. It's 20 past 8 in the morning on the 24th of February. I'm pretty much certain that this is the worst sky I've ever woke up to. Totally geoengineered. As you can see, chemtrails don't exist. It's just normal contrails from a jet engine. There's no seeding agent at all in the trails. They're not mixing anything with the fuel. Everything is okay, as you can see by this video.
They keep you 20, 30, 40, 50 years behind the times. That's what they do. And when something crops up that you should see, or a few people are noticing, in comes their propaganda. They're the first to put out the propaganda. Like the noctilucent clouds that suddenly started appearing, and they try to tell you how far back they went, and they were not new at all, and all this rubbish. It was all rubbish. Always putting the spin on things so that you can tell an idiot, and there's lots of idiots out there. Have you ever looked at the sky and wondered what all those lines are? And they'll tell you, must be a lot of aircraft, you know. There's about 2 aircraft going into Sudbury per day here. That's about it. Meanwhile, you've got about 15 in the air spraying back and forth. Well, I don't know. But that's they're gone. Most folk are gone, and you've got to accept that. Or you'll spend your life battering your head, trying to use your ego to dominate their ego until they admit you're right. That's a killer. Don't fall into that trap. Most folk will do that with their families. All you do is get kicked out, or they'll move off, or something like that. You can only use your time on people who are worthwhile to use it upon. Ones who are already asking questions. If they're asking questions, that means they're not quite so lobotomized as the rest. They have a bit of wildness there, of survivable capabilities. Now, I've gone on in quite depth for years actually, because when the spraying started here daily in Ontario, daily it started in 1998. I can remember the day it started. I couldn't believe it when I walked outside, and they were much lower at that time, doing heavy, long trails from horizon to horizon, and it literally was like a checkerboard, north, south, east, west.
Talking about this a few years ago was extremely dangerous. Now that we have YouTube and more social networking devices, such as even Rupert's MySpace, this is really getting out in such a way that they can't control it. They must just be really over this, because they can't control people now talking about the elephant in the room, what is so obvious to all of us.
There's a feeling from that area that the state doing all of these weather modification programs might not be doing it for the benefit of the citizens of Texas and other states that they may impact as well.
Well, many of the planes that we're seeing here in Abilene will actually turn whatever they're spraying on and off right before our eyes. I mean, you'll see a plane up there flying like normal, turn whatever they're spraying on and off right before our eyes. I mean, you'll see a plane up there flying like normal, and then all of a sudden it starts spraying. We've seen them fly off into the distance and then loop around and fly back again. These are not your typical planes with a preordained path destination from city to city. Someone needs to explain to me, why do they stop traveling in one particular direction and then loop around and come back again? They perform this behavior so many times that we start seeing the tic-tac-toe grids in the sky. We're witnessing the giant X's. And I mean, Rosalind, when you and I grew up, these contrails naturally dissipated in a few seconds or perhaps a minute max. But these things expand, they grow bigger, and before you know it, the entire sky is overcast.
That's correct.
Why do they want to keep this quiet? Why aren't they talking about this? Why don't they want us talking about it? And you can only come to the conclusion that they're hiding something.
Now, do you believe that this is a full-scale secret operation that includes not only the U.S. but Europe and the rest of the world?
Well, that's apparent because you can see the pictures from all over the world, and I get them constantly. Some areas are worse than others.
The upper portion of the screen is leaving a normal contrail, and it vanishes as any trail of water vapor is expected to. But beneath it, you see an aircraft emission that is stationary, thick, continuous, and persistent. and it must eventually be concluded that it is not primarily water vapor.
Welcome everybody to the Free Truth Show. We have a special guest. I am your host today, Patrick Lynch. We have a special guest, Pernilla Hagberg from Sweden. She's from the Swedish Green Party, and she's very bravely came out and spoke about the chemtrail issue, the aerial spraying that's going on over Sweden and many countries across the world. We know them as chemtrails. It's quite fancily known by the geoengineers as geoengineering, aerial spraying, call it what you will. Our skies and our environment and our health is being poisoned by these chemical trails. Not contrails, not condensation trails. Condensation trails disappear after about 30 seconds. These are full of heavy metals, and they hang around and form banks of cloud and often block out the sun. So it is my absolute pleasure to speak to Pernilla Hagberg from Sweden live. Welcome, Pernilla. How are you?
Thank you. I'm just fine, thank you.
Now,
it feels so great. I can't really believe how big it is in the whole world.
Right. So what's happened is, let's let the public know what's happened. Excuse me. You've come out and an article has appeared in a relatively small magazine, and you've spoken about chemtrails publicly. Now, you may not know it, but you're one of the first politicians in history to come out publicly and speak about chemtrails, let alone who might be doing it, the CIA or the NSA or your Swedish government. And it's gone absolutely viral on the internet. It's exploded across the internet, and it got 221,000 hits almost immediately, and several hundred an hour, and growing, and it's reached many websites across the planet. So you've been flung into the limelight, and we, on behalf of all the sky watchers across the planet that have been screaming like a banshee for years, we would like to thank you from the bottom of our hearts that you have the guts and the bravery to come out and speak out and help people understand. The aim of this interview is to get Swedish people who are very environmentally aware to look up in the sky. That is the purpose of this interview. We want the Swedish people and the people of the world to look up in the sky and notice what is happening, that it's not normal.